Here is a rewritten, polished, emotional 800-word video script with a strong storytelling flow and a natural narrator style. No headings included, as requested. The morning sun had only just risen over downtown Seattle when 12-year-old Claire noticed the woman standing across the sidewalk. Her thin arms were wrapped around a toddler, her shoulders trembling, her eyes cast down as if even looking up required more strength than she had left. The little boy clung to her, his tiny fingers gripping the fabric of her faded blouse. Claire's father, Mark, didn't see her at first. He was too busy reminding Claire to finish her breakfast before school. But something deep inside Claire tugged at her heart. It was that quiet ache you feel when you suddenly realize someone else is hurting far more than the world can see. She stared at the woman for a long moment, then whispered the words that changed everything. "Daddy, can we share our food?" Mark froze, confused by the seriousness in his daughter's voice. When he finally looked up and followed her gaze, his breath caught. The woman wasn't just tired, she looked like someone who had run out of places to go, choices to make, and tears to hide. She was beautiful in a soft, natural way, but her exhaustion stole the light from her face. Her hair was unbrushed, her blouse worn, and the child in her arms looked hungry and afraid. Mark wasn't the type of man who usually stepped into the lives of strangers. Not anymore. Ever since losing his wife 3 years earlier, he had built emotional walls so high that even the people who loved him couldn't reach over them. Helping others meant risking his heart again, and he had promised himself he would never go through that pain twice. But then he looked at Claire, his brave, kind-hearted little girl, and saw the sincerity shining in her eyes. For the first time in years, his walls cracked. Without fully understanding why, Mark stood up and gently waved the woman over. She hesitated, almost startled, as if unsure whether she was even allowed to be noticed. Shame, fear, pride, and hunger battled inside her. But Mark simply gestured toward the empty chair, and slowly, carefully, she sat down. Her son curled against her, too tired to even lift his head. Claire slid her own plate toward them with a shy smile. Mark ordered an extra breakfast platter before the woman could protest. She tried to explain she wasn't begging, that she didn't want to trouble anyone, but the truth slipped through her shaking voice. She hadn't eaten since yesterday, and her son had only had a small snack she'd bought with the last few dollars she had. Mark didn't judge her. He didn't pity her. He listened. Her name was Hannah. She had been searching for a job, but no one wanted to hire a woman carrying a baby and 1,000 unspoken worries. She was fighting to survive. Anyone could see that. As they ate, the atmosphere around their small table changed. The cafe owner noticed and brought warm milk for the toddler, Jacob, along with extra pastries. People walking by slowed down, watching quietly, sensing something gentle, something good unfolding. When breakfast ended, Mark found himself unable to simply walk away. He didn't want to leave Hannah standing alone on a sidewalk with nowhere to go. Not out of obligation, but because he knew what it felt like to need help and receive it too late. He offered to walk her to the community center that helped single parents. Hannah hesitated, unsure if she deserved kindness, but Claire slipped her little hand into hers and smiled up at her. That was all the reassurance she needed. On the walk, Hannah told them parts of her story. She had left a painful relationship, moved states for a fresh start, and ended up in a cheap motel. Her money disappeared within days. The fresh start she hoped for never came. She wasn't afraid for herself, only for Jacob. Mark wanted to say something comforting, but the understanding in his chest was too heavy for words. Instead, he nodded, letting her see she wasn't being judged. Claire held Jacob's hand most of the way, guiding him like a protective big sister. At the community center doors, Hannah turned back. Her eyes filled with tears, not of fear now, but gratitude. She didn't know how to repay them. She didn't know why they cared. Mark simply told her that sometimes life sends the right people at the right time. And today, it was their turn to be those people. Weeks passed. Hannah found temporary housing, then a part-time job. Mark checked in from time to time, not because he felt responsible, but because he genuinely cared. Eventually, Claire begged him to invite Hannah and Jacob over for dinner, and when he finally did, it felt natural. As if all of this had been meant to happen. The children bonded instantly. Hannah and Mark talked more each time. The conversations grew warmer, deeper, easier. It wasn't a love story, at least not yet. It was something gentle, something healing. Months later, as Mark watched Claire and Jacob playing in the yard, he glanced at Hannah sitting beside him. She looked stronger now, her eyes brighter, her smile steady. She caught him looking and smiled softly. And in that quiet moment, Mark understood something. That morning at the cafe, they hadn't only shared their food, they had shared hope. If this story touched your heart, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And tell us, what would you have done if you saw a mother like Hannah standing alone and hungry?